Chapter 5, Genesis. These videos are to compare spiritual thought with carnal thought. If you've been doing any more of these videos, it's kind of the same thing. I'm just continuing on in Genesis. This is the first book of the generation of Adam. In the day, oh, I already did that. We're going down to 5:5. And Seth lived 105 years, and begat Enos. And Seth lived, after he begat Enos, 807 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all of the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and begat Canaan. And Enos lived, after he begat Canaan, 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days Enos were 905 years, and he died. And I'm sure these numbers of years all have purpose and meaning somewhere down the road. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and begat Michael. And Canaan lived, after he begat Michael, 840 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all of the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Michael lived 65 years, and begat Jared. Very short compared to the others. And Michael lived, after he begat Jared, 800 years. Oh, I see. He started having children when he was 65. Okay. 830 years after he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Michael were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begat Enoch. And Jared lived, after he begat Enoch, 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God. Now we're getting to something interesting here. Get my camera down here. And Enoch walked with God. Now this is the Enoch that the Bible mentions. I've often wondered, and I'm sure some of you have, why there's no book of Enoch in this book, because this book declares Enoch's preaching so perfect that God wouldn't suffer him death. Apparently Enoch was really knowledgeable and really knew a lot of stuff. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And in the days of Enoch, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years. 365. I think that's how many days there are in a year, and that's also interesting. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years. Very interesting. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. 24 is a note, say anything on that. Let's see, took him. Translated, without dying, as Elijah was. In 2 Kings 2:9, Enoch was the seventh from Adam. And there's a number of spiritual completeness. He was the seventh in line from Adam. He prophesied by faith, therefore divinely instructed. Romans 10:17. Okay, and Methuselah lived 187 years, and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived, after he begat Lamech, 782 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all of the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all of the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. How about that? 777. Now, that many seven, my note says, and there's no notes on it. I thought this weird that my good friend Mr. E. Bullinger, who did these notes on this book, had actually didn't make any notes about this number. This guy lived 777 years. Triple sevens. Okay, he didn't make notes on it, I guess, for whatever reason. Let's start reading on the next page here. And Noah was 500 years old when Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men. Hang on, maybe I read that too fast. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Now, this is a little bit said about a lot of bit that happened. Number one, the sons of God, I believe it refers to them. Yeah, the sons of God saw the daughters, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair. Now, they liked what they saw. The carnal mind would suggest that these things were ready to have sexual relationship, and I think certainly the book bears this out with that thought. Now, my thought on giants, because this is kind of like where this is all going, the giants of the book. Well, we can actually, carnally, we can visualize some very tall guys, and they're marrying with women. But, a very tall guy would have like a really large sexual components for breeding. And to me, that's most likely would not match up and could injure or kill these women. So when I see giants, my spiritual brain starts to kick over, the right side of my brain. And he's thinking giants as in today, like people that owns conglomerates, that these spirits, these sons of God, are inhabiting their bodies. People like, say, Bill Gates or Elon Musk, or those type of people who would be considered giants in our time. Well, back then and this time, and what this time is representing for our time, everything that happens in this book is for our ammunition, for us to figure out our story that we live in, no matter what time this is we live in, throughout this book. So if you looked at a king back then, you could see him as a giant, not to negate the carnal visions we have of this scripture as being physically giant, not to negate it altogether. I think we need to have that imagery to get the story told, so we can have that story ingrained to where it's going to be there for when we need it. So I think we should definitely take the story in both carnally and spiritually. But my point is that spiritually today, women are marrying with giants every day. If you were married to somebody like somebody that owns, say, Google or Amazon or some type of big giant conglomerate like that, then you pretty much know what bodies these fallen angels are inhabiting. You pretty much can understand why these men that own these conglomerates can somehow have the foresight or the insight to understand and know the workings of this world that they can become billionaires in. Well, there's a good reason. Their spirit, the spirit that they have taken into their physical body, these giants have all these answers. They've seen the cycle before. They've seen this pattern. They've seen this. They know how to make things, do things, accomplish things. One of the things that the giants first did when God put the curse on them for their failure was that they were going to be sown to this earth for an extremely long time. And one of the first things they did is taught people how to make dope and booze. And from these pedestals gained them all the kingdoms of the world. Because if you don't think you've been serving dope and booze companies and drug companies and things, if you don't think you're serving them, just count up where your money goes at the end of the month and see where it goes. And oil companies is also in this thing. So we're feeding those giants today, just like later in this book it's going to depictate. And we're feeding those giants till we can't even feed them fast enough. Now the giants are starting to eat themselves. And that'll get a little bit more clear as we go. But I think that's all the time we're going to have. That was 6. Now we're on 6:3 and some. So that's what we're going to pick up on the next video, because we're already running late time. Boy, the time goes fast. And I notice I just read through the begets, because not everything in this book is going to speak spiritually, have much to say spiritually. But as you can see, these numbers of years that they are born, the numbers of years they had their children, I'm sure they have spiritual significance one way or another, and which will probably come to fruition later as we're reading. So with that being said, thank you for taking a listen. And I'm going to get the video loaded up, and maybe someday stop by and take a listen to another 10-15 minutes of see what comes up carnally and spiritually. You never know, something might ring a bell for you.